Oh, you still haven't packed up your stuff, truly a shameless woman. That's right, that's right. Just get out of this house already. Don't worry, I've already arranged the movers. When I confronted him about his infidelity, my husband brazenly demanded a divorce. He, together with my mother-in-law, started berating me to leave the house quickly. Taking advantage of my non-resistance, both my mother-in-law and husband said whatever they wanted. Yes, understood. I'll hurry up with the moving preparations. Since our marriage, I had been treated like a housemaid by the two of them, but if we were going to divorce, there was no need to endure any longer. I showed no resistance to their unreasonable demands and obediently complied. For now, let them get carried away with their attitude. Then, I'm counting on you. I pushed both my husband and mother-in-law into the moving truck my husband had prepared. What? Why are we getting in the truck? Hey, let us out! What is going on? Inside the vehicle, the two of them were left dumbfounded as they were taken away somewhere. I stayed behind in the house alone, sending off the truck with a laugh. So, Jennifer, how about we get married soon? I met my boyfriend, Ray, at a matchmaking party I was invited to by a coworker. We hit it off right away since we had hobbies in common, and soon we started dating, and today Ray finally proposed to me. Are you sure I'm the one? It's a bit late to ask, but you're a high flyer, Ray, and popular with the ladies, right? Ray works at a major company and is what you'd call a high flyer. Compared to him, I'm just an ordinary office worker with nothing particularly outstanding about me. What are you talking about, Jennifer? It's your modesty and kindness that I love. Taken aback by the sudden proposal, I spoke disparagingly of myself, but Ray just smiled and ruffled my hair. At his words, I nodded and said, if you're okay with me like this, then I'm yours. And so, we got married and had our wedding. Now, a happy married life awaits us. I believed that, but what actually awaited me was hell. Right after we got married, Ray said something shocking. Jennifer, I want you to quit your job and come live with me and my mom. Wait, hold on, I never heard anything about this before we got married. You can't just spring this on me. I have a job too, and moving in together all of a sudden without any preparation is just impossible. What? Isn't it normal for a wife to support her husband? I'm worried about leaving my mom alone. Wouldn't you feel better knowing she's not by herself? When I refused to move in, Ray's mood soured instantly. If Ray's mom had been a reasonable person, maybe I would have agreed to move in after some discussion. But honestly, I just didn't get along with Ray's mom at all. It was when we went to meet her for the marriage introduction. Nice to meet you, I'm Jennifer. I've been dating your son Ray, and I look forward to getting along. I greeted her, but my mother-in-law Susan had a shocking response. Wow, you're quite plain. Ray could have chosen someone better. I wonder why he settled for someone so unremarkable. You really have poor taste in women. Upon seeing my face, it seemed that Susan didn't like me at all, as she started muttering her dissatisfaction right away. Come on, Mom. You're always so harsh. Sorry, Jennifer. Mom just says things straight out, she doesn't mean any harm. I hope you'll get used to it. Okay. It was an outrageous thing for Susan to say to someone she just met, but Ray just laughed it off. Honestly, my first impression of my mother-in-law was the worst, but she was going to be family now. Maybe she felt lonely about her only son being taken away. With that thought, I just gritted my teeth and bore it. But that might have been a mistake. Thinking I would never argue back, Susan started to complain about everything even after we got married. The idea of living with such a mother-in-law. I was not looking forward to it. Worried about her living alone? She's only in her 60s. There's really no need to live together. What? What if something happens to her? I didn't think you were such a heartless person. I thought you were more considerate when we got married. Ray let out a clear sigh. Faced with Ray's accusations of being heartless, I finally gave in and reluctantly agreed to the idea of living together. I really wanted to enjoy some more time, just the two of us as newlyweds. I felt disappointed, but Susan had been widowed early. It's not unreasonable for Ray to worry about her feeling lonely. My own parents had already passed away, and now the only person I could show filial piety to was Ray's mother. With that realization, I convinced myself to accept the situation. But living with my mother-in-law Susan wasn't easy at all. Once we started living together, Susan treated me like a maid. "Jennifer! Jennifer! Where are you? Come here quickly!" Today again, Susan's yelling echoes throughout the house. I stopped my household chores and rushed to Susan's side, feeling utterly frustrated. If I was even slightly late, more shouting would follow. "Yes, what is it? You were supposed to clean the entryway yesterday, and you haven't done it yet. For a housewife, neglecting the housework, aren't you embarrassed? Such a dirty entrance will make us the laughingstock of the neighborhood." Indeed, Susan had instructed me to clean the entryway the day before. But that day, I had other chores too, like picking up Susan's dry cleaning, grocery shopping, and the daily cleaning, so I had postponed it. "I'm sorry, I was busy yesterday and put it off." "That's all you ever do, make excuses. You're taking me lightly, aren't you? When I tell you to do something, do it right away," Susan screamed in a shrill, hysterical voice. If I even slightly argued back now, things would only get more troublesome. Susan always yelled loudly or hurled insults, questioning my character if things didn't go her way. "Also, I want to go to the hair salon today, so please drive me there and wait in the car while I get my shopping done afterward." "Understood. You need to clean the entryway right now. Come on, hurry up." Susan made a shooing gesture with her hand. Her attitude was extremely haughty, but since I couldn't win against Susan verbally, I swallowed my frustration and headed to the entryway. Thus, Susan uses me however she pleases, treating me practically like a tool. She's always capricious, forcing me to schedule my entire day around her whims. After finishing the entryway cleaning and interrupting my chores, I do as Susan demands and drive her to the hair salon. I'm left waiting in the parking lot for a long time, and afterward, I have to carry her shopping bags. All the while, she keeps nagging about how useless I am as a daughter-in-law. And today, after being manipulated by Susan all day, I didn't get home until the evening. Susan, tired, retreated to her room to nap until dinner. I was also exhausted, but it was nearly time to start preparing dinner without a moment to rest. I stand in the kitchen. If I choose an easy menu, Susan would accuse me of cutting corners, so even though I'm tired, I have to prepare a dinner that will satisfy her. I really feel like a servant, I think to myself as I cook. I had thought marrying the person I loved would lead to a happy married life. But under Susan's dominion, I had become nothing more than a maid. And just when I finished the day's housework, Ray came home from work. After Susan had eaten her dinner, she rested in her room, leaving only Ray and me in the living room. "Ray, you might not realize since you're at work all day, but your mother's verbal abuse towards me is terrible. Could you talk to her about it? I'm at my breaking point." "What? Why can't you just get along with my mom? Just ignore the old lady's ramblings." Ray looked visibly annoyed by my words. I've brought up Susan's attitude to Ray many times before, but Ray always dismissed it, suggesting I was the problem. "Are you saying this is my fault?" So annoying. I'm tired from work. Get dinner ready, I'm gonna take a bath." No matter how much I pleaded, Ray always took his mother's side, cutting off the conversation and leaving the living room looking annoyed. The relationship with my mother-in-law was terrible, and my relationship with my husband Ray had also gone cold. This kind of life continued for several years. Susan still tormented me in the same old way. Ray has loved anime since he was a kid, and on his days off from work, he would just stay in his room watching anime all day. When we were dating, we used to go out together, but once we were married, he said he wanted his own space, and our conversations dwindled. 3 years into our marriage, Ray, who was originally absorbed in anime, started saying he had things to do and began leaving the house more frequently. He would ask me for spending money to go drinking with his friends from his school days, and he would spend the money I gave him very quickly. Spending money that fast is weird. Is he really going out drinking, or could he be cheating? I grew suspicious of Ray's activities. It was pointless to keep feeling unsettled, so I decided to secretly follow him after he said he was leaving the house. If he was going to a drinking party with friends, he should be entering a bar. But Ray didn't head to a store. Whose house is this? I followed Ray's car in a taxi, keeping a safe distance. The car stopped in front of an unfamiliar apartment. From a distance, I watched as Ray rang the doorbell of an apartment. A young woman came out to greet him. Just as I suspected, Ray was not meeting friends but was seeing his mistress. Trembling with anger, I took out my phone and took photos of the two of them together from a distance. Now he wouldn't be able to talk his way out of this. I had the evidence in hand, but I was filled with frustration because Ray had entered that woman's room and didn't come out for a long time. I had taken a taxi home earlier, and the next day, I confronted Ray with the photos I took on my smartphone. While I was crying and asking why, Ray, in contrast, just smirked and admitted to the affair with a defiant attitude. Having an affair while married, what were you thinking? Oh, I got caught, huh? Well, it's okay, I've been thinking about leaving you anyway. After all, a man needs a kind and cute girl. A woman like you deserves to be dumped by Ray. As we argued, my mother-in-law Susan joined in to support Ray. Taking her son's side, she began to talk about how inadequate I was as a wife. I'm fed up with this daughter-in-law. I didn't like you from the first time I met you. Ray, just divorce her and remarry that girl. I prefer a younger and more obedient daughter-in-law over someone like her. Mom says so too, so let's get a divorce. I never really liked you. I married you because you were quiet and obedient, but I'm tired of a plain woman like you. So, that's your true feelings. It seemed that both Ray and Susan never saw me as family, just as a convenient servant. Completely fed up with the two of them, I accepted their request for a divorce. Still haven't packed your things? You really are shameless. A few days later, while I was on the computer in the living room working on divorce procedures, Susan spoke to me sarcastically. The new wife will live here, so we can't have the old one around. Please leave this house quickly. With a snort and a triumphant shout, Susan yelled that. And there was Ray, suddenly beside her. That's right, that's right. Just leave this house already. Oh, don't worry, I've already arranged the moving company. My mother-in-law and Ray are both saying whatever they want to say, taking advantage of the fact that I don't rebel. Yes, I understand. I'll hurry and get the moving preparations done. I said, showing compliance without resisting their absurd demands. For now, let them get carried away like this. That's what I was secretly laughing about inside. Thank you for your help. The truck has arrived, said the moving company's driver brightly as he greeted me on the moving day. Finally, the nuisance is leaving. Ah, what a relief. A lonely life awaits her alone. How pitiful. Despite other people being around, they continued to make sarcastic remarks towards me as usual. Ignoring them, I winked at the driver. Noticing my glance, the driver nodded and then said to Susan. Well then, we'll be heading off now, please get on the truck right away. What? What are you talking about? Susan was puzzled by the unexpected words of the driver. Come on, you get on too. Why should I? I urged Ray to get on the truck as well. Although they complained, a back and forth ensued until the neighbors gathered around to see what was happening. Concerned about their public image, they reluctantly got on the truck. Thank you, I appreciate it. Once I confirmed they had boarded, I stayed behind alone in the house and watched the truck drive away. Inside the truck, the two of them sat dumbfounded, being taken somewhere. An hour later, Ray called me. I was cooking and couldn't leave right away, but the phone kept ringing. Hey Jennifer. What the heck is going on? Reluctantly, I answered the phone, and Ray on the other end sounded quite irritated. According to Ray, for some reason, the truck had stopped in front of his mistress Saki's apartment, bewildering them both before unloading all the belongings and quickly leaving. Laughing inwardly at Ray's confused state, I revealed the truth. I had contacted the moving company arranged by Ray beforehand and directed them to deliver everything to the address of his mistress, Saki's apartment. They took for granted that I would leave the house after the divorce, but I had arranged to send them, along with their belongings, to the mistress's apartment. Over the phone, Ray and what seemed to be Susan next to him shouted, "Don't do whatever you like." But I firmly replied, "Well, since your mother said she wanted to live with her new daughter-in-law, why do we have to move into a small apartment? Is this revenge for the divorce?" Neither Susan nor Ray seemed to grasp the situation at all. But there was a legitimate reason for my actions. No, it's not revenge. I just did what was obvious. What are you talking about? What's funny is you seem to be mistaken. This house is mine, and since we are divorced, it's clear that you are the ones who should be leaving. What? What do you mean? The house and the land we were living on were all inherited from my late parents. When I explained this, Susan immediately began to panic. Lies. That land and house were bought by Ray with his own income. Susan denied my words, claiming I was lying. I laughed out loud at her assertion. It's funny. Yes, I know Ray has been bragging to you about how he was the first among his peers to become a manager and built a new house. But that's all a lie. Would you like me to show you the registry to prove it? Ray had boasted to Susan that he was the first among his peers to get promoted to manager and had built a new house. It seems Ray was mistaken in thinking he would get this house in the property division. But land inherited from parents does not count as joint marital property, so it isn't subject to division. I explained calmly to the flustered pair. The reason you lived here was because of your marriage to Ray, and now that we are divorced, we are strangers. There's no reason for us to live together anymore. That's why I had you leave. Do you understand? Oh no. There's still something Ray has been keeping from you, Susan. You pride yourself on having an elite son, but in fact, Ray has been unemployed for a while now. What? Susan exclaimed in confusion. Yes, the story of Ray being an elite employee at a major company is old news. In reality, he hasn't been working for a year. Ray had decided to quit his job, thinking he would make a fortune making anime explanation videos and had done so without telling me. After he quit his job, he disclosed this to me and had me keep it from his mother. However, his videos didn't take off and Ray had been without income. All our living expenses had been covered by the rental income from several properties my parents left me. Susan, seeing Ray leave the house in a suit every morning during the week, thought he was working, but he was just killing time at internet cafes. He had been pretending to his mother, boasting while being unemployed and living off me. Continuing to boast, even after his affair was exposed, Ray couldn't back down and demanded a divorce without thinking ahead. When I asked him what he planned to do after our separation, his response was staggering. I was planning to borrow money against the house until my video streaming took off. Astonishing. You're not making a penny now, yet you really thought it would take off someday? I couldn't help but snort at such a shoddy plan. You wouldn't understand, but I have talent. I'll become a popular streamer soon enough. Sure, it'd be nice if your dream came true someday. But you've miscalculated this time. The house is mine. Have your mistress support you. Wait, is that really true? Mistress Claire, who had been listening to our conversation, panicked and joined in. It seemed like it was the first time Claire realized Ray was actually unemployed. Ray had bragged to his mistress that he was wealthy and showered her with expensive brand items, but those were all bought with the allowance I gave him. Being unemployed is such a scam. There's no point in dating a penniless man. In an outraged state, Claire screamed at the two to leave her apartment immediately. It turns out Claire never intended to be with Ray from the beginning. Realizing she had been deceived, Claire confessed this to Ray, who then begged her not to leave him. "I have nowhere to go if I leave here. Please let me stay for a while. Why should I have to shelter a lying man and some old woman I don't know? Get out, or I'll call the police." "Don't say that. Please." "Please, from me too, just like this, let us stay here for a bit." Ray forgot to hang up the phone, so their entire argument was heard by me. The two were desperately pleading with Claire, but she became increasingly frustrated with their refusal to leave and apparently called the police. Naturally, there was no obligation to listen to such an audacious request after being deceived into allowing them to stay. Soon, I could hear the sound of police sirens, and it was clear from the conversation that Ray and Susan were being severely reprimanded by the officers who arrived. "What do you think you're doing, barging into a single woman's home like this?" "It's not like that. We were tricked by my wife." That's right. It's all her fault. She's the scammer, arrest her." "I don't know the full story, but your actions are causing a disturbance. We'll need to hear your story at the station." It seemed they would be taken away by the police. Listening to this unfold over the phone, I quietly hung up, feeling a clear sense of relief having exacted my revenge after being oppressed for so long. After being released by the police, Ray and Susan, with nowhere to go, apparently loaded their heavy belongings onto a cart and moved under an elevated river bridge. Someone who saw them told me they had collected cardboard boxes to make a makeshift shack where they now lived, nearly leading a homeless life. Ray, of course, never became famous as a video streamer. Having once been an elite working at a major company, Ray seemed to have lost the motivation to find new employment after experiencing such a degraded lifestyle. Although he apparently moved out of the shack, he now lives a modest life with Susan, receiving social welfare assistance. As for me, I continued to live a stable life with rental income, enjoying free time I never had before, without being exploited by anyone. Recently, I started streaming videos of my hobby, crafting small items, which has become popular among housewives and even started generating advertising revenue. While living with Ray and Susan, I had been like brainwashed, suppressing my own feelings to comply with them. But having separated from them, I finally feel like I've regained myself. From now on, I want to live life my way, reclaiming the time I lost.